In this episode, we're going to be talking about performance anxiety or stress or nerves or whatever word you want to label it as. But let's dive into that topic because it's such an important one. Here we go. Hi, welcome to this new episode. I'm so excited that you're here because today's topic is super important and it's all around performance anxiety or nerves or stress or whatever you want to label that as. See, many beginner singers, they think it's not normal to feel those things when performing because and I had a student actually that told me that. She said, well, I love to sing. My goal is to perform in front of people and still I am terrified of doing it. Is that even normal? Like if I want to be doing this, shouldn't it feel good, right? Is that something that you might recognize yourself in? If so, then this episode is definitely for you. And I totally get where this idea comes from. The idea that if you truly have the desire to perform and be on stage, then you shouldn't feel any stress or nerves or anxiety. That's the idea that many singers have. And where that comes from, or where that might come from, in my opinion, is that we see all those big names and artists and performers do their thing, but we're not really talking about this topic. Although many big performers do struggle with these things. So it's not a theme that is oftentimes talked about. And it's something that many artists themselves are ashamed of. And so when they're ashamed of it, they're not sharing that. And so aspiring performers, they think that they've got it all figured out and that it's not normal to feel all those feelings before going on stage. So it's really normal that we might be thinking those kinds of things. So then the question is, well, is it true that no performer ever has struggled with anxiety or stress or nerves? And as you probably can guess, that's definitely not true because the truth is that many artists do struggle with those things and performance anxiety is a real condition. Now, I personally today in this episode I'm touching on performance anxiety, but if this is something that you struggle with, then I would highly recommend you getting some help with that. There's no shame in asking for help from a therapist or a coach that can help and guide you through this. Now, as I said, the truth is that many artists and big names struggle with performance anxiety, with nerves and stress before going on stage. So there are two examples that I want to share with you of big names that struggle with performance anxiety and actually talk about that. And so the first one is Queen Bee, Beyonce. If you're a Beyonce fan, then you know that she sometimes uses what we call an alter ego to perform. So an alter ego, her alter ego's name, by the way, is Sasha Fierce. It's also an album of her. But so an alter ego is basically a character that you create and that you step into before going on stage. So if you look at Beyonce's interviews around this topic, you will hear her say that it's not her, Beyonce Knowles, on stage. It's not Beyonce in the high heels and the shimmering outfits. It's not her. It is Sasha Fierce. And she says, when I put my heels on, when I put my makeup on, that's when I feel Sasha Fierce rising. And so that is her way of stepping into that role that is separate from her personally. So that's her way to coping with performance anxiety or nerves or stress. And I actually worked with someone, and this is really interesting. He uses this kind of idea, and he actually uses a hat. So when he performs, he wears a hat. When he doesn't perform anymore, then he takes the hat off. So that's his way to step into that role of, now I'm the performer, now I'm the singer, now I'm the one that, shines on stage and dares to show himself and be vulnerable. So that is something that you can play with too, with the idea of having an alter ego. And that alter ego is something or someone you can give a name, and then you can think about, well, what character does this alter ego has? Like, how is this person in life? How is this person on stage? And oftentimes that will be the person that you aspire to be on stage, but that is very different from who you are as a person. So that is, in short, what an alter ego is and that you can use. So Beyonce is one of those examples. Bruce Springsteen is another example that talks about having performance anxiety. There is an interview with him where he talks about that. Now, I'm not going to quote the whole interview, but it goes basically something like this. He says, when my palms are sweating, when my legs are shaking, when I feel a tight stomach, then I know that I'm ready and excited to go on stage. It's something it's not the exact words, but it's something like that. So let me dissect that for you, because this is so important. If you're hearing the symptoms of legs shaking, hands all sweaty, and like a tight knot in the pit of your stomach, when you hear those symptoms, what would you associate that with? Most people would associate that with fear, anxiety, stress. Instead, he chooses to see those symptoms not as fear, but as excitement. So he's giving a different meaning to those symptoms. See, we are brought up in a way where when we feel those symptoms, we automatically decide that means that I'm fearful, or that means that I'm experiencing stress, or that means that I'm anxious. But what if we could change the meaning? And that is what Bruce Springsteen does by saying, when I feel those things, I know that I'm excited, pumped up, and ready to go on stage. So he's giving it a whole other meaning. He's not saying, when I feel those feelings, I know I'm fearful. No, he's saying, when I feel those things, I know I'm ready to go on stage. And that is another way for you to handle performance anxiety or stress before going on stage. So the first way was to use the alter ego, inspired by Beyonce and her Sasha Fierce. And the second way is to give another meaning to all those symptoms that we feel and really regulate our nervous system. And that's a whole different topic. But the idea behind it is, first of all, it is normal for you to feel those things before performing. It is normal to experience anxiety or stress or nerves. Many people or singers or performers don't talk about that, but know that it's normal. And yes, you can do something about it. 2 things that you can do about is 1, work with an alter ego, and 2, you can change the meaning of the symptoms that you experience. Because if you don't do that, then you keep being in that vicious cycle, and you keep having that desire to perform or to sing in front of others, but then you keep being stuck in anxiety, which again will cause you to be even more fearful to share your musical song with others. And so we're not really moving forward when we're in that vicious cycle. We don't want to have that. So use those tools that we've learned from Bruce Springsteen and Beyonce. You get the choice right now to either choose this new path or stay stuck in that vicious cycle that we talked about. So, obviously, a good performance will start with a good preparation. And a good preparation starts with knowing the vocal techniques that you need in order to sing a song in the right way. Because it is proven, actually, there's been studies that many singers and performers in general, they suffer less from anxiety when they are well prepped. And that's very logic, because imagine you go and take off an exam, but you haven't studied. I'm sure you will feel more nerves going into that exam room than if you had prepared beforehand and you know exactly what to do, right? So the same thing is true for performers and singers. So if you have prepared beforehand, you know in your song, this is the vocal technique that I'm going to do, these are my lyrics, this is how the melody goes, then there's a greater chance to lessen the anxiety when actually performing that song. So the first step really is to work on your vocal technique. That is the foundation. That's the basis. That is where you learn how to actually use your voice in a healthy way. And if you're ready to do that, I have a free training coming up giving you these exact foundations that you need to help you move forward with this. So I will link to that training in the description down below. My invitation to you, your homework for today, is to go through that training, have that vocal technique foundation so that you can build upon that and slowly decrease that anxiety or the nerves or the stress when singing in front of others. So go click that link right now. Besides that, I just want to thank you so much for having spent this time here together. I really appreciate that. You are working on you today. So thank yourself as well. You are spending time to grow as a singer, and that is not something that you should be taken lightly. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'm looking forward to see you here again very soon next week. See you then. Bye.